Welcome to the Building Blocks of Business, a podcast show where we dive in and explore various aspects of the business world. This show is brought to you by eCell NITK in association with NITK Toastmasters Club. I am your host, Tirth Savla, final year BTech student in the Department of Chemical Engineering. Today, you are listening to the fourth episode of Season 1, The ABCs of Applying to a B School. As a proud Royal Mech NITK grad, Abhishek pursued a Master's in Engineering Management from Duke in the year 2013 and is a recent INSEAD MBA grad. Having worked within the financial services space in New York City for 7 years, he has enjoyed being both an operator and an advisor focused on strategy, financial planning and analysis, and commercial management. Having grown up in 4 different countries in the Middle East, Abhishek has realized that international experiences enrich one's outlook both personally and professionally. In his free time, he enjoys traveling, working with non-profits on economic empowerment, plays the guitar, mixes music, and collects coin. Hello Abhishek, it is great to have you with us in today's episode of the ABCs of Applying to a B School. How are you doing? How's the weather in Fontainebleau?
Hi, Tirth. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's a pleasure to be here as well. The weather in Fontainebleau right now is really great. It's summer season, so it's time to get out those tank tops and barbecues. Think about it as the NITK weather right by the beach, just skip the humidity. So things are going great. How about yourself, Tirth? How are things in Surathkal?
Right now I am in Mumbai.
Okay.
So it's raining a lot in Mumbai and the weather is very pleasant. It's very cold.
Got it, got
Yeah.
it.
And I can imagine the weather in Fontainebleau. I mean, I am missing the Suratkal's weather. It's been months since I've been to the college.
Got it, got it. Yeah, it's definitely a new
Yeah,
norm during these times, and I hope you're keeping safe and healthy.
I am. Thank you very much. I hope you are doing as well.
Yep, thanks.
So, right after graduation, you joined Duke University and pursued a master's degree in engineering management. Many Indian graduates start applying for Indian programs at IIMs or the Indian School of Business. What was the reason behind this decision?
Sure, that's a great question. So there's two main reasons behind it. One is the geographic preference in which I wanted to work. Having grown up in Dubai, I have kind of grown up in different countries in the Middle East, in Dubai, in Saudi Arabia, and in Bahrain. And I did come for my undergrad to NITK because it is a top school, but I did know that I wanted to work in the US. And the best way to make that happen would be to pursue a master's degree straight after my undergrad, which was what my mind was set on since my third year. That's the first reason, my geographic preference of working in the US. And the second reason was after 4 years of doing mechanical engineering and kind of fixing the nuts and bolts around and interning on the shop floor, I figured that, full-time core job is not something that I see myself doing down the road or kind of flourishing in, which is why I want to complement the mechanical engineering education with a business education to land opportunities that are more techno-commercial in nature.
Alright. So, can you tell us about your experience at Duke and how the Masters in Engineering Management helped you in your future career choices?
Absolutely. Well, I've never lived or worked in the US before, so it was definitely, I wouldn't say a culture shock, but a new experience, lots of new learnings. I still remember the time when I first landed in New York and my brother picked me up from the airport, and I was roaming around and I went to a bar. The whole concept of a tip and how 15% of whatever you pay should be a tip was very new to me. So it was a great learning experience
Hmm.
coming to the US. It's a very different sort of a culture and one that if you've survived 4 years of NITK, you will thrive in for sure. Duke was a great experience for two reasons. One was because the fact that the school is quite reputed and the program is very small and collegial in nature. Most of the people that go to an engineering management school or program typically have 0 to 2 years of work experience. So it's almost like an extension for school. So I got to live the undergrad US life that I didn't quite live for the 4 years I was in Surathkal. So that was the reason why it was an enriching experience. And the second is it's extremely flexible. So the actual program is 1 year. And you need to complete 8 courses, of which 4 are required courses. And the other 4, you can tailor it according to what you want to do after that, or which areas you want to explore based on your interest. So I was very focused on finance. I took a lot of electives with regards to financial restructuring, mergers and acquisitions, and IP law, which I really liked. And I know several other classmates that have taken also courses which are core mechanical engineering to complement, their business education in the other four courses. So, the flexibility with regards to coursework was something that really attracted me to Duke, and I thought was very helpful in identifying interests in short-term and long-term goals. And the other part was on how flexible the program is in terms of timeline. So these 8 courses, you could choose to do it in either 1 year, 1.5 years, or 2 years. So I opted to do it in 1.5 or 2 years for a couple of reasons. One was it helped me get acclimatized to the US work culture without burdening myself with coursework. And the second is it gives you more time to network, go to networking events, and talk to people, and figure out what your passions are and where you want to be working after that. So it was a very memorable experience, lots of great things. Some of my most memorable experience were camping out for 3 days straight from a tent,
Wow.
living in a tent pretty much in the cold, and lining up to get basketball tickets. As you know, basketball is religion at Duke, and even if you're not a basketball fan, you will become one if you go to Duke. So, it was really cool to have received those tickets and attended all the games, and the energy in the place is just so driven by sports and basketball, which is nice.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, lots of fun.
So, your time at Duke seems fascinating. I mean, for people who are eager to join or who are not sure of what they want to do,
Mhm,
but are interested in management as well as they want to continue engineering,
mhm.
something like this would be a really good idea for them, especially if they want to dive into it soon after graduation. The
Absolutely.
flexibility itself is a great idea when they are not sure and when they just want to explore. Plus, the culture, rich culture over there.
Absolutely. I think you're
So,
spot on. And the coursework flexibility and the timeline flexibility in which you can do the program really allows for that. I think it's a great stepping stone to working in the US, one, and two, working in, non-traditional fields post engineering.
all right. So, after about 8 years of graduation from NITK,
Hmm.
in which you pursued masters in engineering management and worked in varied capacities, you joined INSEAD, which is one of the best business schools in the world. I know you have a lot to share about your time at INSEAD, but can you tell me about a few experiences that you found really fascinating and have shaped your goals for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Every single minute, every single day is a new experience here at NCR. And despite the fact we were locked down, I think that element still stands because at the end of the day, okay, fine, you're adjusting to a new norm, which is online classes, and you're probably not going on a lot of travels, which means that everyone's in the same place. And Fontainebleau is not a very big place, so you get much closer as classmates and people. But a couple of my best experiences would be the welcome week, where for the first week, what you have is the seniors or the prior batch, just like how you have in probably freshman year. I wouldn't call it ragging, but it's like a little form of hazing where all of you are divided into four different clubs or houses. It's very similar to the fraternity concept, and you're made to do a bunch of tasks, not just like problem solving tasks, but things like, okay, go to the shopping mall and then um, you know, take a video of yourself hugging a policeman, or go and propose to a girl and pull her around and take a video of that. So, it's a lot of fun. It helps you build camaraderie with your batchmates. So that was one really cool experience. The second experience, which I thought was really nice, was our unofficial graduation. So this was in the middle of Fontainebleau, which is actually a very ancient French town with lots of castles around, where we organized our own graduation with like our own unofficial speaker, right in the middle of a mansion of an Argentinian billionaire. All of us were suited up, lots of champagne, just a couple of weeks ago, which was a very nice experience. So that also was one of my very memorable experience. And the third was this thing called Dash. So at the end of the first period or the second period, I think at the end of the first period, um, at the 2 month mark, what happens is everyone dresses up in costumes, wakes up early in the morning, and it's almost like, a little pre-party, and everyone runs into class in these costumes. It's a little, kind of demanding for a professor to be teaching a bunch of people in a costume, but I think it was really fun. It helps increase the collaboration that you have at NCR, and especially given the diversity of
Hmm.
people, it really helps to get to know other cultures better.
That sounds quite fancy. all the programs that you mentioned. So, can you tell me more about the educational programs that you have at INSEAD and how the years are divided? Can you go for a work experience for a year or take a sem
Yeah,
off or something like that?
absolutely. So INSEAD is a very accelerated program. So from an academic standpoint, it is very intense, and the intensity is front loaded. What that means is it's typically a 10-month program that's split across 5 periods, 2 months per period. So in P1 and P2, you have your core courses, which are your basic pillars of strategy, finance, financial accounting, operations management, managerial accounting, organizational behavior, and things like that. These are your very standard courses. Then in P3, you have, I would say, 20% of the courses which are the standard courses, they're non electives, core courses, and the rest are all electives. So you could choose from the different organizations or other functions like strategy, operations management, organization behavior, finance, in which fields you want to actually specialize in. And there's lots of different fascinating electives that you can take. One of the more fascinating ones that I've taken off late, which I really enjoyed, despite the virtual setting, was this course called Integrating Performance and Purpose, which was actually taught by the ex CEO of PepsiCo. Called her name's
Yeah.
Indra Nooyi. I'm sure you know her. And yeah, so she was the professor for the course, or the co-professor, and it was interesting because it talks about how you want to integrate performance of a company that's like, revenue growth, profitability growth, a strong balance sheet, and cash flow statement with purpose. How you're actually giving back to society, which I thought was an interesting concept, especially given that we're facing a lot of different challenges like climate change, gender diversity, eating healthy, education, economic empowerment, and things like that. So that's something I really enjoyed from a coursework
Okay.
perspective.
And during the coursework, did you go for some work experience, some internship or externship of any kind?
Right. So every year at INSEAD, there's two intake batches, a J batch and a D batch. The J batch graduates in July and the D batch graduates in December. So the J batch is a 10-month program where you do not have time to do an internship, or rather, there's no break, but you can always work part-time. And a lot of people do that. In fact, a lot of people also take advantage of the resources at the entrepreneurship cell, just like yourself right now, and get linked up with startups that are really interesting and have different sort of value propositions and work part time there on an unpaid or a paid basis. But the D batch is what you want to be targeting. If you do want to do an internship, you do have 2 months to do an internship. So that's kind of how academics goes hand in hand with part-time work out here at NCR. And of course, the opportunities are ample. You could always reach out to a professor and connect with the professor on whether you want to expand on a particular area of research, and that can also be a very fruitful experience.
I can only imagine how enriching it would be for you. The course taught by the PepsiCo CEO just sounds amazing. I cannot even imagine how it would be in person. So that's an amazing experience.
Well, Tirtha, I also did not get the opportunity, unfortunately, to take this course in person. It was all on Zoom, but still, it was a very enriching course.
True. So can you tell me more about your application strategy to Duke as well as INSEAD?
Sure. So they're two very different ball games, and the main reason is because you have different number of years of work
Yes.
experience. So for Duke, my application strategy was, of course, to give the GRE, and I think the quantitative score for GRE really matters a
Okay.
lot. If you focus on really nailing that down, it's a huge advantage in that one pillar, which is academic. The second is on your essay. Essay is really important because it tells your story, and your story should be captivating. It doesn't necessarily have to align with what they want to hear, but it should be unique, genuine, and very captivating. So I would highly recommend that people you know really well get it reviewed by them because they know you the best. Your mom, your dad, your brother, sister, best friends in your dorm, get it reviewed by them. And I think that's the second aspect, and that should be checkbox. And the third is your experiences, just leadership experience. For instance, what kind of leadership initiatives have you taken? Where have you shown that you've gone above and beyond to create value to not only yourself but the society around you? That could be in the form of organizing a podcast session just like this proactively to help alumni and future aspirants for applications, or taking up a leadership position in the union, the student council. So I think I had those three things working pretty well for me. I was a CR for the mechanical engineering branch for 2 years. And after that, I was also one of the part of the leadership team for INSEE, where I organized the Pro Nights in 2011. And for the first time, we got in Sunidhi Chauhan. We had a DJ show, so all that kind of covered the leadership part. For the essay, of course, like I spoke about my diverse international upbringing. That was my unique selling point, and I think that helped and went a long way. And for the GRE, as long as you get a perfect score on the math part, which was the case in my situation, I think you should be sorted on that. And obviously, all of this is catalyzed by your recommendations and your recommenders. I would highly suggest get in touch with them and give them a heads up that it's coming early on in the process. So that is how the application process works for Duke and how I would approach it. Now for INSEAD, it has to be a bit more in depth because what's happened is you have several years of work experiences, and INSEAD as a school wants to know you as a person extremely well. They the average number of words in each and every essay and the average amount of time it will take you to write all these essays will be significantly more, if not slightly more, than other top business schools. And the average number of work experience years is also slightly higher, which means that your work experience and the kind of lessons that you've learned really should shine through. And INSEAD focuses on four main pillars. The first and foremost is academics, and that should be substantiated by your GRE or GMAT score, no difference between the two, your grades, either in your undergrad or your master's program, and or any sort of coursework or research paper publications that you might have pursued in your career. It just shows intellectual capacity. That's the first pillar. The second pillar is international motivation. So what this means is that have you ever lived or worked in a country or countries outside that of which your passport is a part of? And what kind of lessons have you learned from that? Can you assimilate and kind of empathize with people from different educational backgrounds? Because here at INSEAD, the unique part is that this is a business school where there's no one truly dominant culture. If you're going to go to HBS or Wharton, everyone is going to try and be American because you're in America. Everyone's going to try and wear a Patagonia vest. Everyone's going to try and play beer pong. But out here, we do the same things, but you can be yourself because the diversity is just so much. The highest percentage of one nationality is Indians, of course, and that's 11%. And every other nationality is very well represented and come in small packages, which means that the diversity aspect is really heightened. It's important for NCR to know you can flourish in that. That's the second part, international motivation. Then the third part is around leadership experiences. Now, when I say leadership experience, it's specifically your ability to go above and beyond to anticipate an opportunity, either in an organization or in a non-profit or in a non-work setting, but it's that ability to go above and beyond, anticipate the opportunity, build a compelling vision, articulate sort of the vision, get buy-in from different stakeholders, and achieve it while having fun doing all of this. So that's really important to be able to lead people and kind of be cognizant of what your leadership style is. So that's the third big pillar for INSEAD. And the last pillar I would say for INSEAD would be around just generally how you giving back to society. That's a huge pillar because it's your ability to contribute. So what have you done that contributes to society? Is it in the form of a non-profit where you focused on economic empowerment, which was the case with me? Have you worked on probably setting up a little fund or fundraising for a friend that's suffering from cancer? That could be a good story. And INSEAD is very heavy on, as we call it, a business as a force for good. And it goes back to also what I was talking about, what Indra Nooyi teaches at NCR, which is integrating performance with purpose. So, what's your purpose in society? So, those are the four big pillars: your academic capacity, your international motivation, your leadership abilities, and your ability to give back to society, which are very important and should shine through in each and every one of your essays as part of the application. Happy to talk a little more on any one of them if you had any specific questions.
All right. I think we can focus more on NCR. If you want to elaborate on any one of those facets which you think is really important, then you can please tell us more about it.
Yeah, I think for INSEAD, international motivation is extremely important. I'm not sure if there's a particular weighting, but if you don't have a very impressive GRE or GMAT score, but if you haven't been able to live and or work just from an intern capacity or just living capacity in a couple of other countries outside your the one that you hold a passport in, then that can be a challenge in the application process. So international motivation is extremely important, and what that means is how flexible are you? Can you adapt in a culture or rather multinational company where you have to wear different hats? You have to manage probably a bunch of factory workers in China and report back to headquarters in the US. Both extremely different cultures in terms of giving feedback, number of work hours, salary, whatnot. So how can you kind of bridge all these cultural differences and kind of take it to your advantage and make it result in actual commercial upside in a business setting? That's extremely important. I think the one tip that I have is this should show or this should come across in your essays while applying to INSEAD for sure.
All right. That makes a lot more sense. So, I think for Duke, it's quite straightforward. You have to focus on your GRE GMAT scores, but along with that, the essays that you write have to actually tell a story about yourself and what you have done within the few years of college. Whereas for INSEAD, where you have a lot of work experience and some other kind of experiences, you need to probably weave a story and give whole picture about yourself, and that story itself has to express a lot about you in the way you adapt and overcome
Yeah,
in your life and various situations. So yeah, that gives a lot of
exactly.
it makes a lot of sense and it's quite insightful.
Yeah, and like it's not just work experience, it could just be traveling. For instance, say, you took a year off and you just made it a point to travel all across the world and you went to Africa, Dubai, a bunch of countries in Europe, and then you learned about all these diverse experiences. That could be a very good story. Or even if you've, undertaken learning a foreign language, for instance, you want to learn Chinese, that also shows a lot of international motivation. So I would highly recommend kind of thinking out of the box as well, if
Quite
that's helpful.
intriguing. Indeed. So you are graduating this year from INSEAD in these difficult times. Yeah.
That's correct. Yep.
So what are your future plans?
Yeah, absolutely. So after I graduated from Duke, I already did consulting for 3 years, and I already did something after consulting, which normally is an exit option for consulting, which is corporate strategy in a scaling private equity backed firm. Now, I found that experience very interesting to be able to go into a company that's growing from 500 to 2,000 employees and kind of manage all the financial, strategic, and operational aspects of that company. So, what I do want to do after INSEAD, like INSEAD is a very consulting heavy school. If you do want to get into consulting, it's you do your homework and you will get in. But since I've done it before, unlike most other acquaintances of mine, probably my interests more lie in the private equity region. So, what a private equity firm does is basically they invest in a bunch of companies and kind of implement a lot of changes to make the company perform better,
Okay.
and in 2 or 3 years sell it to another company for a premium. That's how they make money. So I'm really interested in joining a private equity firm where I work on the operation side of things, where I go into each of these companies, help them scale, do all the strategy, finance, and operations for these companies, and drive commercial upside, and kind of get out so that the private equity firm can exit and reap a reward on their investment. So that's the area I'm focused on. It's a very unconventional sort of a career track. You don't have like a specialized hiring process for these sort of roles, but that's what makes it fun as well. So, although I graduate in a week, I plan to spend the next 1.5 to 2 months traveling around Europe. Like I mentioned, a week back I was in Biarritz in southern France surfing, and in a week I plan to be in. Well, today I plan to leave to Spain and spend a week and a half there, and just meet people, network with people, see what kind of companies they're investing in, and how you can add value.
It is indeed unconventional. I wish you good luck in your journey and especially your following few months exploring Spain and other countries of Europe. I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun. So take care and enjoy. And I also wish you good luck in your future endeavors. Even when you were describing about private equity firms, that was quite insightful because personally I did not know about that. And I think that will be true for a lot of our listeners. So thanks a lot for giving us more to think about it.
Right.
All right.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Tirth, and good luck with everything. Enjoy the rest of your final year. And also, to all the listeners in the audience, please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions.
And with that, we come to the end of today's episode. So thank you very much, Abhishek, for making time for this and sharing inspiring insights with our listeners on your MBA journey. I'm sure our listeners will find this very useful.
Thank you so much.
I would also like to thank our listeners. I hope you took away something valuable from today's episode of the ABCs of applying to a B school. Until next time, stay home, stay safe, and stay strong.